Hey everyone, I'm Kate Kennedy and I'm here with day 48 of 100 Days of Kane, PA. And we've asked you guys for stories about Kane's history that you'd like to hear because every Wednesday night we come down to the depot and hear from the Kane Historic Preservation Society. And you had asked to hear the story of the Penn Kane Hotel, which is currently the new Thomson House right behind me here. And so tonight we have Dick Bly and Wendy Oakes here to tell about the very beginnings of this building and then to go into a little bit more detail about the Penn Kane Hotel. So I'm going to go ahead and flip you around. And here we are at the depot with Dick Bly.
Hey, Kate.
And Wendy Oakes.
Hello.
Hi, you guys. Hey, thanks so much for having us here tonight. We had a request to hear about the Penn Kane Hotel. And the two of you are the ones that were appointed to tell the story. So we can't wait to learn from you guys. We'll go ahead and start with you, Dick. Maybe if you would want to start with the beginning.
Well, yeah, sure. The new Thomson House, as it was originally called, was built back in 1907. John Fleming was the owner, the operator of it. So he had it built in 07. John Fleming, an Irish immigrant, he owned the Fleming Hotel uptown. In fact, where the Radio Shack store is today, the building next to there, the building's gone. They raised it maybe 15 years ago, but that building there was the Fleming Hotel. So from 1886 till 1906, he owned and operated the Fleming Hotel. But he had purchased from the Kane family the corner down here, because this was all part of the Thomson House, and the Thomson House was where the old Summit Hospital, people would remember the old Summit Hospital over here, but the Thomson House was built back in 1868 by the railroad company there, the Pennsylvania Railroad, and they had it as a hotel there. But then eventually in 1906, I believe it was, the Kane, or 1904, I think it was, the Kane family converted into the Summit Hospital. So Fleming approached them, purchased the property here, and built his massive grand hotel.
I'm just going to go ahead and I know you guys all know, but this is the building that we are talking about. And is this the original structure?
It's the original structure. Today it's an apartment complex here, but back in the day it was 125 hotel rooms in it. It was a rather unique setup inside. They had hotel rooms on the outside of the building, and then they had a center atrium, which is still in the building today. And then they had hotel rooms that were surrounded that atrium. They looked into the atrium. But that's changed today, where it's a hallway that wraps around the atrium today there. Mm-hmm. But the building, it was listed on the National Register of Historic Places back in 1984, I believe. And the reason was really because of the grand hotel that it was, and also the commerce that it brought in, because with the train station here across from the hotel here, it brought travelers in from everywhere. They stayed here primarily, and John Fleming, he would post baseball scores in the lobby here. So people traveling through this area would stop, they'd get off, and if they had time before the train would pull out, they'd go over and check out the ball scores that he was posting.
That's cool.
The other interesting concept that he had was, today we a lot of restaurants often talk about the farm to table concept. Well, that was something back in the early 1900s, because John Fleming lived about 2 miles east of Kane here at a farm. So he raised poultry, he had vegetables, so it was like farm fresh at the restaurant here back in those days.
Wow, how interesting.
Yeah.
Starting right here in the corner of Fraley and Greaves.
And what's really so prominent about it is as you're driving north on Route 66, and you get up to the top of the cemetery hill out here by the Catholic cemetery there, you look up. I mean, the whole sky is lit up in Kane, and also, you have a good portion of the building is right there is like the skyline. Mm-hmm. So that was part of the historic application as well, was the grandness of this building.
Yeah, it definitely makes a statement.
Yeah, it really does, and I think also it ties in with Denny Driscoll and his Star in the Forest, because that's what Denny always observed when he drove from Pittsburgh in particular, and would come back to Kane, he would always notice that the sky was always lit up. So to him, it was always a star up here in the middle of this forest.
Yeah,
so
that's
yeah.
perfect. Okay, so it was originally built in the early 1900s as a hotel.
Mm-hmm.
How long did it operate as a hotel?
Well, Wendy's going to talk about that, but John Fleming had it till 1945? 46. Fleming, he was 90 years old when he finally retired and sold it, but it was a hotel through that time period. And then Wendy's going to tell us the rest of the story here on,
All right, we'll hear how it changed hands and the rest of the story from Wendy.
Okay, in 1946, he sold it to two couples from Bradford. They changed the name to the Penn Kane Hotel, and that's what a lot of people remember. Some people still call it the Penn Kane Hotel. They renovated the entire structure. They changed the coffee shop into a cocktail lounge. The dining room was upgraded, and there was a lot of business meetings that happened in the Penn Kane Hotel dining room. They had the Kiwanis Club would have meetings there. The Rotary would have meetings there. They had conventions there, the Firemen's Convention, the Grange State Convention. They had all the kinds of different things in this lobby. It became kind of a social place for everybody to meet. I mean, a lot of the articles I found were all about when they met in the dining room for this business meeting or this political event, or different things like that. There was also different businesses in the downstairs of the Penn Kane at different times. There was a barbershop. Well, the barbershop was upstairs, right?
Downstairs.
Was it downstairs?
In the ground,
Okay.
yeah. Basement level, ground level. Yeah.
There was a barbershop. There was a beauty salon at one point. In the early 70s, I think there was even a convenience store in there, laundromat. So there was, and it was also the bus stop. So anybody coming in through the train or the bus stop usually came right to the Penn Kane Hotel because it was right next to the train station, and the bus stop was at the Penn Kane.
Yeah, it's such a busy section of town with the intersecting of 66 and 6, so it's a great place for the transportation stops.
Yep. And then in 1955, it changed hands again. 3 Kane men bought it. It was Pete Avenelli, Jacob Mosier, and Sam Mano went together, and they called it the Penn Kane Hotel Incorporated, I believe is what they called it, and the 3 of them went together, and they did some renovations at that time. It was still a hotel. The radio station, WADP radio station, was here at one point, and their studio was here. That was before it was WKZA, and then they moved it out on Highland Road. But it was here originally. And the interesting part was there was the Kane Police Department did not have radios in their cars until 1966. So all police calls came into the Penn Kane, and they would answer the calls, and then they would flip a switch for a light that was hanging up by Field Street and Fraley Street. And a red light would come on, and it would notify the police that there's a call. So the police would have to find a phone, call the Penn Kane, find out what the call is, and then go respond to the call.
So if someone called into the police, it would go to the Penn Kane Hotel.
Right.
The police are driving through town.
They see the red light.
Seeing what's going on. If they see that red light go on, they know there's a call in.
Right.
They had to find a phone, call the Penn Kane to get the message.
Right, exactly. That's how it worked.
Technology sure has changed.
And I think John Marconi could tell us more about some of those phone calls, but that's for another evening, Kate.
So in 1966, they finally got radios in their cars, and it was one of the reasons was all the kids had radios in their cars, and they knew where the police were, and they were notifying each other where the police were at any certain time. So there was an article in the paper about how the kids, the police had to keep up with the kids because they were outsmarting them every time. So that was just a cute little story about there. Hunting season was a big deal. This was a 125-room hotel. And at hunting season, it was packed, and it was majority of hunters came in during hunting season the first day. This town was just packed with people. It used to be when hunting season came around. And the Kane Fish and Game Club would actually set up their tables here and register everybody that came in for the big buck contest here at the Penn Kane. So it was used for basically social. Anything social was there. In 1971, Pete Avenelli announced the closing of the Penn Kane Hotel. There was a slow closing, so it closed, I think, June 15th, 1972. Once it was closed, then nothing happened. Nobody owned it. It fell into disrepair. There was windows broken. There was articles about how they were afraid that the building would just disintegrate because nobody was using it.
It's just so hard to imagine.
It is. They said there was storms went through and broke windows, and they stayed broken. And
how sad that must have been.
I know.
To see.
In 1974, Bentz's bought it, renovated it, upgraded it, and made a furniture store there. So the furniture store opened in 1975.
And was that on the first level?
It was on multiple levels, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was in the first level. They had a
Okay.
Bob was his father, William Benz and Bob Benz. They bought it as a partnership there. But they expanded Benz Furniture across the street because Benz Furniture had several buildings up here on Fraley, but they expanded that across here. And then Bob opened up it was a Kling Gallery, a little bit more upper end furniture. So that was really throughout the lobby and back into the dining room area. So yeah.
Yeah, I was never in there, so it has to be him that tells you about that one. Yeah, and then 1975 is when the convenience store opened down there. It was called Sunnydale, Sunny Farm. I had to look that one. I had notes. Sunny Farm convenience store, and I don't remember it. I think I was too young for that, but I don't know how long it lasted there. But it's kind of funny that there was a convenience store in '75 down in the bottom of the Penn Kane for bread and milk and.
It sounds like so many different businesses have made their way through there. Different types of businesses.
There was a lot of different
over
ones.
The years, yeah.
And since I went right past it, we do have an old menu from the Penn Kane.
Oh, cool. Oh, here's the train.
Yeah, of course the train's going through.
We'll talk over the train here.
We're going to get some loud whistles now.
That's so neat. You have that.
For anybody who's not in Kane, they won't remember how loud the whistles are. And inside, there's prices of different items.
Look at that.
Ice cream was 10 cents.
Where's all the noises coming from?
And that's the drink menu. We are at the depot.
We are at the depot. The train's still running.
Okay. And then we also have an old key fob, the Penn Kane Hotel.
Oh, nice. So this is what
What the keys would have been on.
For the hotel room.
For the hotel rooms.
Yes.
That's what a key fob was for the Penn Kane. And then we also have this little interesting thing. This was a linen stamp. You put the linen, the sheets, tablecloths, whatever, under here, and they would stamp it with the name Penn Kane Hotel on it. So nobody steal it, I guess.
Or if they stole it, they
I don't
got
know.
a very nice souvenir that they know where they got it. That's so cool that you guys have those items here at the depot.
We just somebody just donated those about a month and a half or 2 months ago.
Oh, perfect.
So they happened to find them somewhere.
That's awesome.
And if anybody has a linen or a towel that's been stamped, we'd love to have it in our collection. So
Bring it on
there'll be no
back.
questions asked.
Okay, so the Benzes bought it became a furniture store, and then what happened next?
Then it was sold.
Well, then, actually, in the early '80s, Bob Benz had an idea for the building, and the idea was to convert it into nicer apartments. And so, with his vision, that's exactly what transpired here. And really, I mean, Bob, he had a lot of enthusiasm for the community here, a lot of vision for the community, and there's a lot going on uptown today with facade improvements, but I believe that this project over here started that whole era, if you would. If it wasn't for Bob, I think this building would have been torn down at some point. It would have been a parking lot.
It was going in that direction, and to look at it today, it is beautiful. The outside is gorgeous. And it's really like a staple of the community.
Yeah.
One of the first things you see.
Yeah. I mean, the pigeons were occupying it in the late '70s, and it was become a real eyesore. And so, I mean, fortunately, it was converted over, and it's been. I think it's been rented ever since, all the apartments, and there's some commercial offices in there, and so it's worked out well for the community.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you guys. I didn't know anything about the early days of the building, and I learned a lot about the Penn Kane piece of the history. Is there anything else that you guys wanted to share or talk about regarding the building that we didn't get to talk about yet today?
Only just going back in time, back in the late 30s, the ski trains used to come up here to the depot. So they'd bring tourists from Pittsburgh or wherever, and they would travel up here to Kane, stay at the new Thomson House, and downstairs at the first level down here in the basement area, next to the barber shop, there was like a ski room there, kind of like a lodge. So before they went out to Big Gusty to go skiing, and I mean, you really think about it nowadays, I mean, Big Gusty was like a major hill.
They had a big, huge winter carnival every year. Well, for at least 3 years in a row, they did that.
Out of Big Gusty.
Yeah, they had. Well, it was all over Kane. They had ice skating, hockey out at James City. They had skiing at Big Gusty. They had the ice queen out at James City, out at Crystal Springs, and they had the snow queen here in Kane. So it was a big deal.
But in that room there, Jarvis Rockwell, who was the toy designer for Holgate Toy, he actually did the artwork that was around the cornice of the ceiling up there. And that artwork is still there. It's been covered over with drywall. But back when this project was starting to be renovated into apartments, I got an opportunity to see that artwork in there. So it's all hidden behind new drywall.
Wow.
But I mean, what a bustling time in Kane. I mean, ski trains coming to Kane and going out to Big Gusty. Big Gusty in our day was a good toboggan hill. But back then they had ski jumping out there and other downslope competition. And so, yeah, it was quite the hotel.
Yeah, and if they didn't have this hotel, none of that would have happened.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I think it's cool that there's that piece of hidden history in the walls here that someday maybe we'll get to see again.
Hey, maybe someday.
Awesome, you guys. Hey, anything else before we wrap up?
No, I think we're good.
Good, yeah.
Well, thank you guys both. You are such a wealth of knowledge, and we always love hearing from you guys. So thank you for sharing today. One more time, looking at the building we were talking about, the new Thomson House today, once the Penn Kane Hotel. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I love Wednesday nights because you get to learn so much about Kane history, and we really want to hear from you. What are some of the stories that you want to hear about the history of Kane? We have a few more items lined up that you guys have already requested, but would love to hear more about what you want to know, because we have these great historians and great storytellers right here in our town to tell you all about it. We're here every Wednesday night. They're here on the weekend, so please stop down and say hello and check out the depot. There's so much going on down here. Our history here in Kane is just very rich, and we should be really proud of it. So I hope that you are learning a lot along with me on these Wednesday nights of 100 Days of Kane. Thank you for tuning in today, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 49.